This is the Aptitude Outdoors podcast, where we interview conservationists, hunters, anglers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the greatest stories, information, and advice from the best in the world.
All right, we're coming at you from ICAST 2023, my first time here. I'm here with Clayton and Chris.
Yep.
I've been walking around today, seen a bunch of sweet fishing stuff, and you guys both have a pretty awesome story about how you got involved with fishing and starting your own charities and stuff. So, Clayton, how did you get involved? How did you start up your thing?
Yes, sir. So I host a nonprofit bass fishing tournament for the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation. All the money we make goes to the NPCF each year, and this is a tournament we've been able to host for the last 5 years. I started this tournament as a humanities project, and it was such a huge success. We've kind of just taken off ever since. Over the course of 5 years, we've been able to raise over $40,000 for the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation.
And how old are you?
I'm 16.
Jeez, dude, that is amazing.
Yes, sir.
So what made you want to do that in the first place?
My buddy James had pediatric brain cancer as a kid. The Pediatric Cancer Foundation used to do a tournament, the White Tip Shark Shootout, and James was a big part of that. And I asked him who he did or what the tournament was for, per se, because I didn't really want to do St. Jude or something, because they get a lot of help from a lot of other corporations. I did my research on the NPCF, and I loved everything they stood for and how much they gave back to the families and how it's more of a research space. I love that about the company. Had great connections, especially meeting with Mr. Chris and many people along the way that have helped my tournament really become the big tournament that it is each year.
So how old were you when you started this?
I was 10 years old.
Dude, I was playing video games when I was 10.
Yes,
That's
sir.
all I did. I didn't start anything. So you met Chris through that. So
Yes,
Chris, you're involved with...
So I'm with the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation. So we're based in Tampa, Florida, but we do events nationwide, and our research that we do, all the money we raise, we have a partner hospital consortium of about 32 partner hospitals now, all around the country, coast to coast, and so all the money we raise, we fund different research, clinical trials, and other studies. That's our mission 100% is we need to find less toxic and more targeted treatments for kids battling cancer. So what people don't realize, and Clayton probably found it out during his research looking into it, is no money from the government goes to pediatric cancer research. Only 4% goes. So there's billions and billions of dollars, but it's going to mostly adult cancers. There's a lot of reasons why. You know, we think 43 kids getting diagnosed a day is way too much, but in the grand scheme of things, there's a lot more adults. Yeah. So pharmaceutical, and it all comes down to the almighty dollar, right? And so that's why the funding has been lacked so much for kids, research. So that's where organizations like us have to step in, because we're able to provide opportunities for these doctors that have these great ideas for these projects that they want, but they would never get funded by the bigger groups in the government. So we've made it a mission ever since to fund these projects, because we need to find better treatments. Because another thing people don't realize is the treatments are very toxic, nuclear type treatments, from the 1950s. And so these kids, while it might kill the cancer, it's killing their bodies as well. And so that's another big part of our mission, is to find a better way to treat them so they have a better quality of life moving forward. So that's kind of how I got involved with the organization about 5 years ago. Was at another organization before, for-profit, that we partnered with them for their fishing program. So that kind of got me in this world. I actually met at a conference similar to an ICAST to the CEO, and found out about their Fishing Funds the Cure program. Fast forward about a year or so after being a volunteer, joined full-time and working on a lot of our projects. One, Fishing Funds the Cure is what we're talking about here, but we also work with craft breweries around the country. We have fashion shows, we have cooking opportunities, we do cut and color. We actually just worked with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they raised $75,000. We had a few players and coaches shave their heads or colored their hair. So we pretty much have a way for anybody out there to get involved and do something fun at the same time. So from the fishing side, we run multiple fishing tournaments on our own, and then we have a handful of other fishing tournaments that we're third-party, beneficiaries of, like Clayton's. Meeting him when I first started, and hearing that this middle school kid started a tournament for us, I was blown away. And I think the short time you've met him here, you can see why.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. And for him to be able to do something like that and get his community involved, I think everybody there knows what Clayton's doing, and it's a pretty cool thing to see.
Well, you're already down on the floor making connections, getting donations. That's
Yes,
what it's
sir.
all about, man. You're
Yes,
doing
sir.
that hard work, so that's pretty ballsy for 16. I still probably am terrible at that. That's pretty awesome. So, well, what do you, first off, let's start, what do you think of being here at ICAST?
I feel like it's great. This is my third year coming to ICAST. I've loved it every year. The connections and people you meet, especially networking, getting to meet a lot of people that will help you a lot further down the road. And today I've got to see a lot of the people that I've met before and touch back and base with them and just really see how they've strived and built their company to where it is today.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes, sir.
So, you do a lot of fishing yourself?
Yes, sir. I do a lot of bass fishing.
Bass fishing?
Yes.
What's your biggest bass to date?
I caught one about 9 1/4 at the start of the year in February, but we also caught another one a few months ago on Lake Kissimmee. She was about 9 1/4, 9 1/2 on the boat, but the aerator killed her before we could get into weigh-in, and she weighed 8 1/2. So we don't know how big she was when she was alive, but we believe she was about 9 1/4 to about 9 1/2.
That is nuts.
Yes, sir.
What'd you catch her on?
Speed worm. Both of them came off speed worms. Actually, the 1 9-pounder I caught came off of jig that I make.
Oh, you make your own jigs too?
Yes, sir.
I need to order me some of them.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Slauncher Bait Company. We make jigs and we make soft plastics, and we're willing to distribute anywhere in the country.
He's gonna be a millionaire by the time he's like 20.
100%.
Guaranteed. So what's your, when you talk about doing this tournament to raise money, what does that entail? I mean, what's your start to finish? What do you do? Get it off the ground, rolling every year?
Typically, the biggest thing we do is go ahead and promote it to our sponsors. We like to touch back in people who definitely helped us before. I really touched base with Mr. Chris to help establish what we're going to do for this upcoming year and just put the tournament in place. This year, our tournament will be May 4th at Camp Mac in Lake Wales. Our biggest thing right now, we're trying to get sponsors, go ahead and get everything covered. And we're trying to make a few decisions this year. If we do get enough sponsorships, are we going to go ahead, instead of paying 3 places this year, we're going to pay top 5 and then do 2 big bass. Try to make this tournament a little bit bigger each year. And this year, that's definitely one thing we're putting into consideration, as long as making t-shirts and really just bringing the community all together for this tournament.
Cool. Do you do this locally?
Yes, sir. We do it out of the Camp Mac. We invite anybody who's willing to fish to come out. We do the one tournament a year, but we've also considered even maybe doing more than one. Just kind of something we've thought about in the future, and maybe doing it in different places in the country. But right now, the one tournament we have is in Lake Wales on the Kissimmee chain.
Cool. So, Chris, when you guys do your tournaments, you have a couple. I know we had talked a little bit about hopefully maybe someday getting one up on the Great Lakes, my territory. So what do your tournaments entail if people, want to get involved? Maybe they want to sponsor it, or whether they want to come and actually fish in the tournament. What do you guys provide?
Yeah, sure. So our 3 tournaments that we run, they're all saltwater, like inshore tournaments. So we have one in St. Pete, which is a 2-day tournament in the fall every year, October this year, October 5th through the 7th. Then we'll have a spring one in Sarasota, which is a 1-day tournament. And we have another one in Galveston, Texas, which is a 1-day tournament in November. So these are all guided tournaments. So typically it's been definitely a corporate kind of event. So a lot of companies will utilize it for either just networking internally, so maybe it's executive retreat for their VPs or something. But I know we have a few that have kind of a big distribution model in their business, so they've used it as an incentive program to where there's one company they have 8 boats in our tournament, and probably 6 of those boats are the top performers for whatever quarter they designate. So they use it as an incentive for these people that their sales group, and whoever sells the most, you get all expenses paid trip to St. Pete, hotel, fishing trips, and everything. And so it's pretty cool the way some of these companies have done it. A lot of different industries too. We have beverage industry, we have the automotive industry, obviously a lot of kind of like lawyers and car dealerships and kind of things like that. So it's kind of spread across the board, and we've had a lot of the same people for a lot of years, especially at our St. Pete one. And so it's become kind of a family reunion every year for all these people that maybe they don't work together on a daily basis, but once a year they get together and have fun. So that's kind of our core tournaments. And to your point, we're looking in the Great Lakes and maybe do a walleye type tournament soon.
Cool. I'll have to come out and check that out if you get up there.
For sure.
Reunite from our Florida adventures.
That's right.
So, from what I'm gathering, is you're kind of more of an inland fisherman, or do you do a lot of saltwater?
I've kind of started to branch off. I want to teach myself saltwater a little bit more. I've been targeting snook and reds, but I really am more of an inland fisherman.
So, I live up in Ohio. What kind of, I know you got the Florida bass, which just get gigantic. Mm-hmm. So what other species do you fish for inland? I'm just kind of curious if there's anything different than when I'm running around up north.
Mainly I fish for bass. I like to target specks and catfish. Specks, also known as crappie. They're fun to catch. I typically, around winter, we'll go out and we'll start setting the lights out and fishing brush piles, and that's typically when we'll get our bigger specks, because I like to have a cooler when I go home too.
So like by winter, you mean it's probably like 70 degrees?
I'd say about 80 to 70. It cools off a lot better, and once it starts cooling off, especially the cooler nights, that's when you're going to catch some bigger fish.
And I think winter, like 0, 25.
Man, I wish.
Hey, what's up, everyone? James Appleton here, co-founder of Absolute Aid. Welcome to the Seek to Do More program. This program will help you help yourself by developing the daily habits that will elevate your entire life. Over the next 30 days, you'll complete the doers list every single day. And the doers list includes 1, do something physical. 2, follow and stick to your diet of choice. 3, read a real book. 4, further your education on purpose. 5, dedicate time to your spiritual life. And 6, dedicate time to your hobbies. So if you're ready to take a structured, proven approach to build the daily habits that will allow you to get the most out of yourself, your time, and your life every single day, the Seek to Do More program is your blueprint. So make a choice, commit to yourself, sign up below, and let's get started.
So Chris, you grew up doing a lot of saltwater?
A little bit of both. I actually didn't fish a lot until college.
Okay.
So I grew up on the east coast of Florida. Fished a little bit of bass fishing, a little bit of inshore, but I was so busy with sports and stuff, that was my main focus. And when I got to college, I had some buddies that really liked to fish, and so we'd go down. It's like 30, 45 minutes to the Gulf of Mexico from Tallahassee. So started doing a lot of that and just got hooked really quickly. And bass fishing, man, I love pond hopping all the time. It's so fun because in Florida, any neighborhood golf course, you know there's bass in there. You spend 5 minutes, you'll probably you either catch one or you need to move to a different pond because they're not there. And so to be able to just spend 30 minutes and go catch a couple fish like before work or take a lunch break or right after work or something, there's a peacefulness to fishing, and I think bass fishing provides the best of that.
I think one of the coolest thing that both of you are doing is taking something that you love, which is fishing. You know, wouldn't be at ICAST if we didn't like fishing, and taking that and turning it into something that's helping other people. Because a lot of times you get wrapped up in your own sport and you get wrapped up in chasing big fish, and you forget that you can use stuff like that to help other people. So I think that's really awesome. And then the fact that you two know each other through helping other people, I think that's great as well. So like, I don't know, where do you think your passion for fishing came from?
That was definitely instilled in me by my grandpa. My grandpa and my cousin were probably the two biggest factors of that. I'd hang out with my grandpa just about every Sunday for a while, and I mean, me and him would fish all the time. I'm not saying we'd catch much, but it was the experience with him. And then my cousin, he'd pick me up after school occasionally, and I have a picture at my house of me and him fishing. And he kind of taught me the basics to bass fishing and just a little bit here and there, but it was just those experiences that I had where I was almost at peace on the water.
I think I didn't get into it. I mean, I fished growing up. I didn't really get into fishing until I was much older. Like probably the last 5 years, I've been really obsessed with fishing, catching big bass, bluegill, crappie, stuff of that nature, and then going out with these crazy saltwater people out 30 miles in the freaking ocean. Dude, it's scary out there.
It's not that bad.
Have you been way out?
I think the farthest I've been out, I've been beside the Skyway Bridge catching sharks before.
We went out 30 miles, and that was I fell asleep on the front of the boat. And I woke up and I'm just there's no land. Oh, wow. It's scary out there. You done a lot of that?
I've done a pretty good amount. It could be a little nerve-wracking, but we went out with the charter captain, and he's got all the good electronics on there, so that puts you at ease because you're all right, I don't know which way is which, and do I need to pull a compass out and go west to get back home? But You know, you get definitely offshore is you better know what you're doing or go with a captain, because you know you're 30 miles offshore. Those storms that rolled in didn't really get us, but it could have. You know, and then that turns to a whole different situation. So offshore fishing's fun. I know you had a good time with it.
I loved it.
And we got Derek and Michael, their first Goliath. That was cool.
Yeah.
Had to be a team effort. That took all of us to hold the rod. So
so this is a question for both of you. Clayton, go first. You got a lot more time to think about it than Chris and I. We've got some life under our belt. You still got plenty to go. So you got a long time left to fish. What's some fish you really want to go after? What are some gold ticket fish that
It's funny because me and Chris were just discussing this earlier. I think the number one thing on my bucket list, I do want to go offshore and catch some type of tuna. I think they'd be fun. I've caught sharks. I like to target either bulls or something even maybe a little bit bigger, like a tiger shark. I like the way they fight. If I were to go to freshwater, I like to go to the Amazon River and catch some peacock bass. I've caught them in Miami, but it's not the same.
Yeah. I had a friend on a month or two ago. He went down to the Amazon and fished for peacock bass. He said he snapped like 3 rods under the boat. He said they pull so hard.
And that's even the ones in Miami. We've caught some that are 3-4 pounds and they pull like a 9-pound bass. I mean, it's insane. Or they even fight like smallmouth is the best way I can consider it.
Yeah, I want to catch one. I don't think I'll have time while I'm down here because I got to wake up at like 6 and leave tomorrow. But, you know, I think so. Chris, what are you going after? You get the opportunity of a lifetime. Where are you going?
I think I would love to go down to like Guatemala or something and do the big marlin and sailfish and that kind of stuff. I think that'd be super cool. I've been able to do some tuna fishing. You know, some of the like mahi is awesome. I love to do more of it. But fish that I haven't caught, definitely sailfish and then a big marlin trip or something down in one of the Central American countries. There's some really cool, I think you probably saw it here. There's a few lodges that are they're expensive, but you get a good group of people together. That's a bucket list thing to do for sure.
Yeah, and I don't. It's nice when you don't have the experience of like being out on saltwater, because I catch anything and I'm like, this is great.
Yeah,
I love catching fish just in general. So do you have any interest in doing stuff like? I know you said you had a little interest in doing fly fishing. You ever considered that?
I've thought about it. The fly aspect, I think it's funny because a lot of people tie their own flies. I make my own jigs. That's kind of where that inspiration came from. I was watching a lot of fly videos and I just thought, all right, I'm gonna start making bass jigs. Kind of the same techniques. I've never really thought about it, but I do know a lot of people in Central Florida that do it.
Yeah, I always thought it was for like rich people, and I bought a fly rod because my friend Chester, who's here, he's like, dude, you just gotta come try it with me. And I bought a fly rod, and dude, I'm freaking obsessed. It is really fun. So be careful if you do that. So when you make your own jigs, what does that entail? Are you like melting your own lead, or how?
Yes, sir, I am. So typically, I can get lead as old tire weights, or some people have it in their homes, and I've just bought it from them. I'll give them a little bit of cash, and then I'm able to cut that down and melt it. So I'll melt all the impurities out. So what I am melting is pure lead, and then I have the molds at the house that I've even modded myself to make it a little bit easier to pour them. But I'll pour the lead into the molds, and then I have a hook and a base pin in the hole so I keep it weedless. And while I'm doing this, I'll be able to pull it out. It'll take the shape of whatever's in the mold, and then my favorite part is I'll heat them back up a little bit I got a blowtorch, and then I'll dip them in powder paint, and then I'll cook them in the oven for about 30 minutes. And then what that's doing is it keeps that paint on there and allows them to really enhance the color.
So when you make your jigs, is there anything specific you're looking for in them, like shape or to draw you to make your own?
Typically, I like the swim jig heads a lot more than, say, a football jig in Florida, because it's going to sell a little bit more. A lot of the boys that I have that are buying from me typically are looking for your standard flipping jigs, swim jigs, and really just something they can punch in that heavy cover. So my designs, I kind of try to keep it as much as I can to looking like a bluegill or looking like a shiner for that Florida ecosystem. But also, like I said, I'm willing to distribute anywhere across the country. And knowing that, I'm willing, if you have the bait fish, we're willing to make whatever colors or whatever design really you need us to make.
What colors do good down here in Florida from your experience?
Junebug red. We have one that it's a Junebug base head, and it's got purple in the skirt as well, but it's got black in it, and it really just makes it flare. That's what I caught that 9-pounder on.
You caught a 9-pounder on your own jig?
Yes, sir.
That's pretty cool.
That's freaking sweet, man.
Me and my buddy went out for 10 minutes. I mean, I told my dad, I was like, hey, I'm just going to go see if they're on beds. And we went out, and I called him about 5 minutes later. It's like, hey, I need you to bring me a scale.
Someone needs to call whatever Kingfish sail mounts or something and send those dimensions. You need to get that thing mounted and throw that jig in the mouth.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Did
That'd
you
be
get it
cool.
mounted?
No, sir, not yet, but I am thinking about, like what Mr. Chris said, get the dimensions, because I do have all the dimensions on her.
Yeah.
We got the dimensions on her, got a few pictures, and we let her swim back on her bed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm always too lazy because it's still pretty cold when they're on the beds up where I'm at. I never get out there and do it.
That'd be fun.
So is there any big plans for, we'll start with you, Chris, for getting more growth out of the charity to help kids with cancer? I mean, that's a big undertaking. I mean, that's a big deal, but I know you're working on more tournaments and stuff. Anything coming up that you're really excited about or you guys are working on behind the scenes?
Yeah, so every program we have, we're trying to expand and grow larger because we fund research and there's a lot more we want to fund. Mm-hmm. We just need more money to do it, right? Yeah. So our goal, we've been growing at 10 to 20% every year since I've been there, which is awesome. Yeah. And so how do we do that is engaging more people, engaging more companies, finding unique ways to do it. So we're trying to do more national awareness type campaigns too with some big partners like Salt Life we work with. They do a sunglass program with us, but we also have a t-shirt with them. We're talking, hopefully other opportunities to grow that partnership. We have a charter captain next year that is going to drive a boat 6,000 miles in 35 days. It's called the Great Loop Challenge. And he's a charter captain out of Northeast Florida, and we have a boat being built for him right now. We're getting some sponsors and partners to help promote it. He's going to try to do this trek in 35 days, set a Guinness World Record, and then they're going to auction the boat off at the end for proceeds. So his goal is to raise $1 million. So I think between corporate sponsorship, individual fundraising, and the boat being auctioned off, I don't think that's a crazy number at all. So we'll be looking to really start promoting that here probably in the fall once we get all the details knocked out. So definitely keep an eye out for that because that's going to be a cool story to follow.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing... People that do that stuff are just incredible. You're like, how do people come up with this stuff?
Yeah.
So for you, I mean, obviously you want to raise more money and get more people involved. So do you have any plans for the next... What you've already done it for 4 years, 5 years. So.
Yes, sir. This year, for the upcoming year, we are planning to make a board, really establish that. One of the biggest things we are planning on doing, and this is Lord willing and the sponsors, we're going to try to increase our payouts. So this will attract a bigger crowd, but we're trying to pay top 5 and then do two big bass payouts. So right now we already do the 2 big bass. We'll split it 60-40, but we do first 1,000, seconds 500, and then thirds 250. Right now we're trying to increase that a little bit to try to have at least a $1,500 first place. Another one of the big things we're doing, we're trying to work with a lot of high school teams to bring them in for this upcoming year and really let them know about the NPCF, like Mr. Chris, and just help them understand that they can make a benefit just as we have.
That sounds like a pretty good goal. You have anything, maybe 5 years from now that you need it, that you're thinking of, like what's your big plan for the organization is going to be? When you're a millionaire.
I want to have the biggest bass tournament on the Kissimmee chain. Right now, I believe the Bobby Lane Cup is a high school tournament, and that's another big reason we're trying to just get these bigger sponsors. And Bobby Lane's also tried helping us before, and getting those bigger names to help us just really promote this tournament and just raise awareness and the money for the NPCF, because we stand by them and we believe that no kid should have to go through cancer.
Absolutely, yeah. So as we wrap up here, I know everybody's eager to get back on the floor and go talk to some more people, check out the cool gear. Chris, where can they learn more about you? Yeah,
if you just go to nationalpcf.org, and then you can click on fishing, you can click on fashion, brewing, about us. There's everything you want to know about the foundation, all the research, and every program's all on that page.
Clayton?
You can go to castingluresforcures.com. It has all our information and all our upcoming tournaments, and then all the information from our previous tournaments and our contact info.
Again, I want to thank both of you guys for what you do. That's super awesome. And I'll put all the links down below in the show notes for everybody to go find you guys. Go support these two guys. They're great guys, and I love what they do. So thanks, guys, both for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, brother.
Let's get back out on the floor.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Aptitude Outdoors podcast. If you're getting anything out of this, if you're learning something, if it's helped you in any way, go down in the link below and buy me a coffee. Throw me $1, throw me $2. We greatly appreciate it. Just using it to keep this ship afloat. So thank you very much.